Hey guys, it's your host Tim Schaefer here. We have been insanely busy the last few weeks. I just had a baby, he just got a new job, and we've been really trying to work out a good schedule, and we've had some difficulties. So, in the meantime, I'm going to sort of throw in a little filler episode here. What it was is it was the last segment of our last podcast, but if I would have included it, that podcast would have been like 3 hours long. So I cut it, and I'm going to throw it in here so you guys can listen because it is very interesting. What it was is it's our history as gamers in terms of what consoles we first started with, like with the NES, and then leading up to the Sega Genesis days and PlayStation 1, and sort of what paths it took us and how we are now because of all of it, and what we prefer now given our history. So it's a really interesting conversation. So you guys should really listen to it. And we'll be back to normal here real soon, I promise. So I'll see you guys later. Enjoy.
On this last segment here, we're going to talk a little bit about our history as gamers, like what started, when we were younger, what started, and what systems we had that progressed up until this point. So the first system I had was a NES, which was, I think the Super Nintendo may have already been out when I got it, because I remember I was 8 years old. I was born in '86.
So this was the first gaming system ever that you had?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was an NES. And I was 8 years old, so yeah, the Super Nintendo was already out.
Okay.
But the first one I got was NES. Some of the games I remember a lot.
Have you played a video game system though before this? Actually, you getting this? Like, have you went
No.
to a friend before? Have you seen one? Like, and do you remember anything before this or no? Like,
I think I saw an NES at a friend's house, but I'm not 100% sure.
okay.
I think I did.
So
I only
so
have,
this is fresh. This is what I'm wondering. So this is like
this is
your
my first real experience
okay.
that I remember.
Okay.
So yeah, I had Super Mario Brothers 1 and 2. I never had 3 until way later on. I never had 3. Tecmo basketball. Me and my dad played Tecmo basketball. We play a match like every night. And
I
it was
didn't
so
have
awesome.
Tecmo basketball, but I had double dribble, and we played that a shit ton.
Dude, on Tecmo basketball, like if you got a dunk when you were wide open, there was like a little cutscene.
It did the same thing with double dribble, but
It's
like
so awesome.
like your player would be okay. So your players are white, but whenever they get the ball, they immediately turn black for whatever reason in this game. And then when you go up for a dunk, it does like this like Michael Jordan fucking like flashy ass shit, and it's like black and white, and it's like kind of like a cutscene, and then he slams it.
That was like the coolest thing back then, though. Dude, I would try my best to get a wide open dunk and take my basketball just so I could see the cutscene. Like I got it down pat to where every time I throw the ball out, I could almost get it all the way down the court just by passing it, just so I can get wide open for a dunk. It had that. Bill Elliott's NASCAR Challenge. I played that game
What
so
the
much.
fuck?
I don't. I don't. It was like the only. Well, I had that and I had Rad Racer.
Okay.
Rad Racer was freaking awesome. But on the Bill Elliott's NASCAR Challenge, me and a friend would do like real time races, like 500 laps at Daytona or whatever. We would sit there and take turns for hours until we finished an entire race.
Oh, so actually 500 laps
Yeah, we would do the entire thing.
on an
We should take
NES,
turns.
is it?
And I had the
Good.
I had the arcade stick for NES.
Was this an above view, or how did it play? Like, because this is NES.
No, it's cockpit view, man.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was freaking cockpit view. It was awesome. And I had the. I remember I got the NES Advantage from a friend at school for $10. Like, I don't know where I got $10 from. But he had that. I got that from him for $10. I mean, Super Nintendo was out, so people were selling their old stuff. So I was getting stuff cheap.
What is NES Advantage?
The joystick. the arcade stick.
Oh yeah. And it has like the 2 buttons and the stick.
Yeah, and you got the turbo and all that. I did not. I mean, that's the first turbo controller I ever seen.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've seen that. I never owned one.
And then most people I knew still had Super Nintendo, but I mean, we didn't have a lot of money when I was younger. But I was completely happy with my NES. I loved it.
You remember any other games on NES that you may
Terminator 4. No, Terminator Judgment Day. That game is so hard.
So wait, was there like books of Terminator or something like that, and then like they made movies later or something? Like, because Judgment Day is not like the 4th movie, and that came out like kind of recently. So
yeah, I don't really know how, but that was the game. I'm pretty sure it was Judgment Day.
Okay.
It was so freaking hard, dude. I remember the first time I got to like the 4th level, I was so happy, and then I died. And that, I don't remember what else we had. I mean, I had a bunch of games. My cousin, I had a cousin that lived with us for a while. She had a Genesis, and that was like the next console I played.
Before you get into the Genesis, I guess you go back into on the NES. But yeah, that was the very first console I had as well, the NES, and I did have 1, 2, and 3 of Mario Brothers. 3, I ended up like it was a friend of mine's, and it was a girl, and she just ended up giving it to me. But it was like a house like 2 or 3 doors down because I used to always go over there just so I could play it. And she finally just gave it to me because I just loved it so much. So, Adventure Island, first one, that is a game I played a ton. I actually preferred over Mario. Believe it or not, I played the shit out of Adventure Island. I love that game. But the first one, I don't like the second one or third one, and I don't know if you ever played them before. And then I had sports games. I had like Blades of Steel, Double Dribble. But with the NES, okay, the NES was our biggest system when it came to sort of gaming tournaments. So like when I was real little, right, I had an NES, and even later on, we still had our NES for a while. But when I was real little, I was sort of born and kind of NES was kind of already there, like I don't know, from older brothers or something like that. And I remember being extremely little, and playing the first Mario, probably 2-3 years old, and just trying to jump over the first gap and not being able to do it, right? So and what's crazy though is when I think about this, I have a nephew, he's 6, and he beat Super Mario Galaxy at 6 years old. And I couldn't even fucking I couldn't even jump over the first gap. Like, anyway, whatever. But we had tournaments, right? So like later on, even when the Genesis was out and stuff like that, we still always played the NES, and because we had a golf game we played on there, and we had Double Dribble, and we played there was one other NES game. Oh, we played the shit out of Off Road. Like the super above view.
Yeah, I remember that. We had a arcade version of that at Walmart.
Yeah,
back in the day.
That was one of my favorite games as kids. Well, but so my friend Jake, his dad, right? He'd get us all together. We'd all go to his house, and we would just play Double Dribble tournaments. Oh, Baseball Stars. That was the other game. So it was Baseball Stars and Double Dribble, and we just had like wrote huge tournament brackets, and we had literally like 15 kids over, and it was like the whole neighborhood all getting together, all playing NES, and we'd bracket all out, and this is like legit. It was serious business, dude, and we had so much fun. It's easily one of my biggest gaming memories, like, and it's like never gonna go away, and it was such good times because they're just like all playing together, just laughing and freaking just competing like crazy and just like screaming at each other when we lose, and it was so much fun. But the NES was like somehow ended up turning into our tournament machine.
The baseball game I had was Bases Loaded. I think I had 1 through 3. I got all of them.
Anyway, we're going. I just wanted to share my NES thing with that. And then you had a friend that had a Sega. And
yeah, my cousin had a Genesis. The only game she had was Sonic 2. And back then, that's the only game you needed. That's still my favorite Sonic game, and that's like the only game she had for the longest. And then I had a friend that had a Super Nintendo, which I'd never had a Super Nintendo as a kid,
Okay.
oddly enough. But I used to go to their house and I'd play it. I'd play Super Mario and Ken Griffey Jr.'s
Yep.
baseball.
I had that game.
Dude, we played
Like, because
that
the
so
characters
much.
were sort of
Cartoon.
cartoony, but I don't want
Yeah.
to say cartoony. Like, they were like insanely buff, like in the arms and shit.
And you had the home run derby.
Yeah. Man, that game was
And
fun. Yeah.
what else did we play a lot? Donkey Kong. I fell in love with Donkey Kong back then. We played. I mean, a lot of the modern stuff we played.
With Mario 3, one of my biggest game memories is that because I was the first out of our whole group to beat that, right? But, well, it wasn't just me. So it was me and my friend Matt, right? And we stayed up. We had to stay up till it was like 6 in the morning. We had to wake up for school at 7, right? So, like, anyway, but it was from like 10 o'clock at night till then just playing it. And it was two of us. And he ended up getting game over. I'm on like 3 lives to go. And I'm just like on like second to last, and we're just like just sweating bullets, just hoping to beat it. And I get to the last castle, and I think I made the Bowser, right? And like this was I had 1 life. This was my only opportunity. I die here, I'm having to do all this shit over again. And I'm playing Bowser for the first fucking time. And I have no idea what to expect, right? I had no idea he was going to pound through the blocks and any of the shit. I've never seen this before. And so I'm figuring it all out on the go, and I'm panicking like crazy. And I was so close to dying, it wasn't even funny. And I somehow ended up beating him. And it was so hard, like, and I was so, like, worried I was gonna die, and, like, we would have been so pissed. But I somehow ended up beating him, and like we just like yeah, I'm like screamed and like super high five, and we are just like so pumped, and we like woke his mom up, and she runs in there like screaming at us like, why y'all still awake? And he got like on restriction from Nintendo for like a week, but it was like totally worth it. He's like, we freaking beat it. You're so pumped. Like, anyway.
Oh, I remember when the first Street Fighter came out on Super Nintendo, and that was, we would go and there'd be like 10 friends all at the same house, and that's all we'd do all night, play Street Fighter. That's it. I mean, in the meantime, I still have a regular Nintendo NES. I didn't get the next newest console I got. I skipped Super Nintendo and I went straight to N64 when I was like 14.
Okay.
The day I got an N64, I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I got Extreme G and Star Fox with the first
Extreme G. What was that?
Extreme G is an extreme racing game.
Okay.
Which I mastered that game. I played it so much because back then you had a game, you had that game.
Yeah. You didn't like played it a little bit, I'll get another game.
Ended up being one of my favorite games on the N64 was Extreme G. And Star Fox 64 is probably my favorite game on the N64. That game has never gotten old. I mean, when I quit counting, I had beat it like 200 times. That was way back in the day.
And what was cool about that game is you had all the different branch offs, all the different planets and stuff. So it gave you every time you played it, there was something sort of new.
Every secret, and I could play it right now and still have fun.
It was a super good game. I didn't play that game till way later than when it actually came out, but
I didn't even play Mario 64 till way later.
Really?
Yeah, and that took over my life for a long time.
It was my first moment with an N64 was Mario 64.
I was skeptical about it because like Mario in 3D, no, that's not going to work.
Is that you? Were you really kind of like thinking like that at this? Because like I didn't even remember twice about thinking even slightly. I just was like,
I was, because there were other games that went from 2D to 3D that did not work out well. Like I was thinking like, well, you see what happened to Pac-Man.
Yeah, yeah.
So how good can it really be? But I had another cousin, which was I had my two cousins, brother and sister. He got like every game he wanted the day he wanted it. So he would come stay the weekend sometimes, and he'd bring all his new games, and that's how
Awesome.
I found out about Mario 64. Somehow ended up with two copies, and that's how I got a copy of Mario 64. He gave me one.
Cool.
And WCW NWO Revenge. Oh man,
I don't remember what. No, I do remember what wrestling game. It was Warzone for the PS1 that I was obsessed with. But anyway.
but that I don't. I think that somebody is doing a Kickstarter or something that they're making a wrestling game that is like those games back then. Because wrestling games were so much more fun back then with the graphic systems and all that. Then I played, like, I would customize all the characters in WCW and have my own new factions and stuff. Like, I had my own NWO that was black and green instead of Wolfpack in the regular one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played that.
Yeah, I don't know why, but those games were incredibly fun.
They were so well made.
And it was the perfect game to play with your friends, you know.
Yeah, that was. We'd get a bunch of people over and we'd have battle royals.
The battle royales and have like huge. It was awesome.
And then, strangely enough, I had an N64 for years. Something possessed me to want a PlayStation 1 really badly, and I don't know what it was because I wasn't even into RPGs. I sold my N64 and got a PS1, which is weird. But because of that, I ended up getting Final Fantasy VIII, and then that's how I got into RPGs.
Yeah.
But me getting rid of my N64 and wanting it back years later is how I started collecting. Because I wanted my N64 back and I wanted all my games back, and that was like 10 years ago, and that's how I started collecting.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean your collection's going pretty nice. Like I'm getting jealous of what you're getting. So
I don't go.
I know, but
all with collecting, but when I find stuff I want, I'm gonna have it.
But it is gonna stack up though, you know. Do you realize that? Like, even though it doesn't feel like you're really going balls to the wall with it, you know, like look at what you had 2 years ago and what you have now. You see what I'm saying? Like,
what I like about it the most is like I don't buy just a bunch of random crap. I buy games that I want to play and that I really, really like. And you know, after I got to the point where I had gotten all the games from my childhood, I started looking for new stuff like Atari. I never had an Atari. Atari was way before my time, but after I got an Atari 2600, I fell in love with it. I had so much fun with it.
I had a friend that had an Atari, and I remember going over there and playing it. But this was when I also had an NES, and it was just way inferior, and I didn't like it.
Oh yeah, back then you didn't really.
But I can imagine myself now actually enjoying it. But like as a kid, you're just looking at it at a pure like, okay, well this is better than this, so why would I want this? Yeah. In terms of, I guess, graphics and stuff like that, yeah. But,
yeah, now it's the ingenuity and simplicity that I really, really like about it, like Demon Attack and Missile Command and Yar's Revenge and stuff like that.
Now, I still loved, because I had, like, collection games, right? So I had, like, I played the shit out of Missile Command, right? I played the shit out of, it's like Centipede, that's what it was. That was one of my favorite games. I was just really, really, really good at Centipede. And then Dig Dug, I played the shit out of as well. So, like, I did play these things, and they were probably, like, little arcade, like, you know, 20 Bandai arcade games in a pack or whatever, you know, for whatever system. So I'd play them that way, but...
And then I had the PlayStation for a while. And then PS2 came out. And I remember saving up my money for a long time, working side jobs and stuff. I don't remember how old exactly I was. I think I had just started. I just got a little job at a grocery store.
Oh, well, how old are you right now?
Right now I'm 27.
Okay, I'm 25, so I'm about to be 26. So.
I think I was like 15 or 16 maybe it's closer to 16 when the PS2
I
came
think
out.
it could have even been younger. What year did that come out? Because I think that was 2001.
01 or 02, because Dreamcast came out in 99. The PS2 came out later. But I got the
No, Xbox came out in 2001, the original Xbox.
when did PS2 come out? 2000?
Let's see here. Okay, so the original Xbox came out in 2002.
Oh, okay.
The PS2 came out March of 2000.
Okay. And I remember I got the Gran Turismo 3 bundle.
Man, seeing that for the first time.
I remember that's what I got. I remember bringing that home for the first time and being blown away. Because you got to think, back then, a PS2 was a powerful piece of hardware. Like,
Oh yeah.
PC wasn't even doing what that was doing back then.
hmm
And I was blown away at Gran Turismo 3.
This console generation, like the PS4 and Xbox One, this is the only time where it didn't jump ahead of PC. Because
No,
even with the
not even
Xbox
close.
60 and PS3, it still jumped ahead of PC, unless you had like a ton of money to spend. You see what I'm saying? But it still was a little leap, and then a year or two later, PC caught up. It's not even close to a PC, so it's getting worse and worse as the
No,
time.
NVIDIA and AMD competing against each other, I think, has a lot to do with that.
Okay.
They're really pushing the graphics a lot on this new stuff.
Gotcha.
But yeah, and then the Xbox came out, which I wasn't even interested because I was all about some PlayStation back then. Had NBA Ballers. I remember when that came out. When EA Big first started.
Yeah.
SSX and Sled Storm and all that stuff.
SSX was awesome.
And I had Black for PS2. I remember playing that. That was like the best shooter I'd ever played because I had played the
It's
Medal
still
of Honor.
good, dude. It's still good.
It's
Play
still
it
really,
now.
really good. Like, it was
Yep.
way ahead of its time.
Mhm.
Because I was a big Medal of Honor fan back then on PlayStation 1. Those
Yep.
To this
We actually
day-
played those multiplayer. We had like a multi-tap, so you can do like
Yeah.
4 players of that, and we'd play that. It was awesome.
to this day, those games have probably the best soundtracks
Really?
of any World War II shooter. Like the music was fantastic in those
I
games.
can't remember, but at that age, you're not really focusing too much on something like that.
Even back then, I noticed the music. It was
Maybe if I hear it again, I'll be like, yeah, okay.
it's like a big budget musical score for a big AAA movie. But it was a Medal of Honor.
I loved Medal of Honor on PS1. I remember that. I remember loving the shit out of that game. Or
1 and 2, and then you had the extra level at the beginning of the second one.
I think there was 3 total because it was like 1 and 2, and then there was like kind of like another kind of off one. Like I can't remember what it was, but did you play the Army Men games?
Yeah, I played Army Men 64,
Okay.
and I sucked at it. It was just different. My cousin really liked that game. He played it a lot. He was good at it. I wasn't so good.
I loved it. I was pretty damn good at it, but yeah, it's
And
different.
then, while I had PS2, that's when I started collecting other things. I mean,
With
Dreamcast.
PS2, one of the biggest things to note with PS2 is that's when DVD started hitting because
Oh,
this
yes.
was the system
my
that
DVD
released
player.
DVDs. Yeah.
That was my first DVD player because I was still rocking VHS.
Mhm.
And DVD players were expensive.
Oh yeah.
They were so
It
expensive.
did the same thing what PlayStation 3 did. It got DVD players in the door because until the PlayStation 2, DVD players were through the fucking roof, and everyone still always had VHS. And once PlayStation 2 came out, it was it was a gaming system that was awesome as shit, and it also was a DVD player, and that was one of the big things, and that's why it sold a lot in the beginning there because it was a cheap DVD player. And did the same with the PS3 with the Blu-ray. And you see what they're doing there. And Sony's really smart when it comes to that.
A PS3 is still the best Blu-ray player you can get
Yeah, for sure.
when it works.
Once you finish your 6-hour update.
I'm joking.
Dude, I got so tired of that.
It's not as bad as people say. Like, I can tolerate it, I guess, more than, like, it's not a big deal to me, but it's still annoying. Like, you know.
We'll get into how I feel about that generation when I get to
Anyway, okay.
that point.
Yeah.
Anyway, when I had a PS2 was when I started collecting. Like, I got a Dreamcast, a Saturn, all kind of stuff I was really big into collecting. The PS3 came out, and I really didn't care. I mean, I never did. The PS2 was the only game I got close to launch, because the PS3 came out, it was so expensive.
Well, when did you get a PC?
This is way down the road.
Okay, so PlayStation 3 still came out, you still didn't have a PC at this time.
No.
Okay.
PS3 came out and it was like $600. I was like, well, there's no way I'm paying that much for a console. And I didn't want an Xbox because I hated Xbox. It's not Xbox I hate. It's always been the community that surrounds it.
I know what you mean. Like, I don't know. It's like certain bands, like, or there's a lot of different things you can reference. It's the community that kind of ruins it for it. Yeah.
Yeah, the community of people surrounding it. And Xbox brought a kind of a new demographic to gaming. People that didn't really game before were all into like Halo and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I just didn't like the community of people that surrounded it.
I just don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, it's a good thing, but I don't know how I feel about, that aspect of it all. Like, was it that good of a thing that all sort of Xbox sort of happened, or no? I don't know.
It was great. It was great for the industry in general.
Yeah,
I'll admit that.
True.
Because in that.
Well, it's big for it was big for our side of the world, right? Because it still was always Japanese focused. Gaming was a very Japanese thing, like, until Xbox. So you could think of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's see, where was I at? Oh yeah, I mean,
Japanese games were always really quirky and always really, like Mario and all this, like, really quirky shit. Always, the Japanese RPGs, all this shit, right? And then Xbox was the first sort of like bringing realism to the table and bringing, I guess, what we love as westerns, or not me, but in a general sense. Maybe that's what it was. Anyway.
Yeah, the PS3 been out for a while, then 360 came out. All my friends had 360s because of Halo. Because when the original Xbox was out, the only Xbox I ever played was at a friend's, and we would get two TVs and link two Xboxes together and play eight-person multiplayer, and that was really fun.
Oh,
but it always seemed like at the end of the day we all hated each other because we talked so much smack the whole time.
No, I had a lot of awesome times with Halo. I'm not gonna lie, 1 and 2. So
I sucked at it. I mean, when I finally started getting good at it, everybody quit playing. That would always happen. But back to the PS3 and stuff. I mean, that came out, and had a friend that had it, and I mean, it had been out for 3 years before I finally got one. And I loved it for the longest. And
what games were sort of like the thing of why you like the system? Like, were there any defining games? Like,
I can't really. Dirt. I mean, I played Dirt a lot. That's when I first started playing Dirt.
Was it just more of the technology and the way the system worked and the way, like, just sort of, The
biggest thing that sold me on the PS3 is I had a job at the point where I had to travel a lot. And when I had a fully backwards compatible one that would play PS1 and PS2 games. So I had to travel a lot. So I could bring one system with me and then still take PS1 and PS2 games.
Gotcha.
And actually, that was the big draw to it for me. And then I started playing, Modern Warfare 2 were out, which were awesome at the time.
Yeah, they were great games. I mean, it'd be stupid to say they weren't. They were good games,
They were really, really good games. They're not terrible games now. It's a used up concept. I mean, it's time to move on. But I had that for about 2 years before my first PS3 died. And then I had to pay like $120 or whatever, and Sony sent me a refurbished one that I didn't even have for a year, and it died. It had been sitting in a room for a month. I hadn't played it. I turned it on for 5 minutes and it yellow lighted.
Damn.
At this point, I had like 30 PS3 games. The second time, that was it. I went and I got it fixed. I wouldn't let Sony fix it because I wasn't going to pay them any more money.
Yeah.
Got it fixed and I sold my whole collection for like $300. All my PS3 games, everything. Sold all of it.
And you're like,
But
I'm done.
before that happened though, I had recently got a new desktop. It was an HP with an AMD Athlon 2 quad core 650. And I ran across, like, I had never, ever tried to do any PC gaming before that. Ever. I mean, I could build computers. I had built those before, but never anything beyond a regular desktop PC. And I ran across a 550 Ti on Craigslist for $90. I was like, I wonder what that'll do. So I got that, and I stuck it in my regular HP desktop.
Now, what year is this? Are you thinking about?
Oh, I am at about 4 years ago.
Because I think I remember talking with you when you were first getting into PC gaming, because I was deep into it, right? And I was like telling you, hey, get these games, do this, and I was sort of telling you.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember discussing PC parts and gaming with you and trying to get you into it. So I remember that.
And then I tried that, and the 550 Ti was a great card for the price. And I started playing PC games, and then my PS3 died for the second time. I was like, well, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with consoles. Because you couldn't get a 360 that would last more than 2 years.
Yeah.
And if I can't even get a PS3 to last more than a year, then there's no point. There's no point. That's ridiculous. And I had computers sitting in the closet that were 10 years old that worked just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can't take the excuse that it has moving parts as an excuse for something to fail. There's no excuse for that.
Well, I mean, just look at the other consoles. I mean, look at that PlayStation 2. Look at that PlayStation 1. Look at your Dreamcast. It's all still working.
All my space systems from way back then still work.
So why are these systems crapping the fuck out? Like,
I mean, the PS3 had overheating problems. It would get so hot that the low heat solder would unsolder itself.
Wow.
That's ridiculous. That's what happens to them.
Wow.
They would get hot that it would unsolder itself.
Oh my god.
And the 360 would get so hot that the heatsink would separate from the GPU. That's unacceptable. And especially after,
I think it's just like that period in time of technology, because like, okay, you're coming out of the HD systems, you're really like pushing power at this point. They weren't smart when it came to the cooling. They weren't smart in knowing, okay, you're going to have a compact console. You have to keep this in mind. You can't have these full-blown computer parts trying to compact them into a small box and thinking it's not going to overheat. You have to.
No, I mean, because you're limited when you're making a console. You're limited to like 200 or 300 watts because of heat. You have to put it in a small.
And that's why you have this power brick, which the 360 had, and it still was fucking overheating. So I don't even get that.
And I knew people that had their 360 would die, and they just go buy another one. And I'm like, dude, you can't let them get away with that. That doesn't make sense.
Everyone did that. This isn't a few people. This is like, millions of people doing this, dying, going and buying a new one. Like, just
no, I'm not like that. I mean, I was a borderline PS3 fanboy at the time, but after the second one died, no more. They're not getting no more of my money. I'm done. Because I just discovered what I could do with the PC. And, PS3 and 360 games were mostly 720p at the time. Oh, yeah. I realized that I could play the same games at higher frame rates at 1080p, and I was sold. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I sold on PS3, and
See, here's my issue is, like, I wish more people would hit that realization. And the issue, what's so annoying on my end of the spectrum, right, is because I've been messing with PC gaming since I was like 13, 14, right? I still always had consoles, but I still was always deep in the PC game as well. And I always sort of knew this, and like people would be like, how do you play on that thing? Like thinking this, like, I think it's a separate experience. Thinking like I'm not playing the same games they are. You see what I'm saying? Like they're thinking I'm just playing StarCraft or Diablo. No, I'm playing fucking the same shit you're playing on your console over there, but just having a better experience.
I would have that argument with people constantly. Like the past 3 years, I was going to college. People, I mean, would say, talking about games, like, what do you have? PS3, what do you have? 360, and like, what do you have? I have PC, like,
wow, World of Warcraft.
Pretty much. And they'd be like, well, aren't they about to quit making PC games, though? Like, what? What does that mean?
They've been making PC games since the beginning of a computer. Like, what the?
But that is people that are not into PC gaming. That's the information they get. That there are no games for PC. That's another thing. Like, but there's no games for PC. I'm like, what? We get every multi-platform game you do. We're playing the same games.
Yeah.
But plus some extra great ones that you don't have.
I mean, it's give and take. Of course, there's console exclusives and stuff, but that's with any console, though. Like, there's certain PS3 games you can't get on a 360. Like, that's a given. Like, if you have a system and you don't have all the systems, you're going to be missing out on a few games, okay?
That's with any system. Yeah. You're always missing out on something.
Yes, of course. But still, like,
they'll pull the no games argument, but there's no games on PC. Like, huh? PC has the biggest library of anything.
Yeah, easily.
Any system there is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can't sit there and... I mean, I don't know. It does. Not everybody can do it on PC because you run into problems that people won't know what to do.
Well, here's the thing, too, is nowadays it's a ton better than it used to be. I mean, every year it's getting better and better and easier, right? To where, like, actually some people that are just somewhat even kind of into console gaming can get into a PC gaming and it not be that an easy jump nowadays,
Yeah, I had a friend that saw how much I was getting into it, and he ended up building him a pretty decent rig because he saw how much fun I was having with it.
Yeah.
I mean, the building and part and tinkering with it is another thing I like so much about it. That's another draw that a lot of people wouldn't have.
Yeah, and I enjoy that too, and that's why. But that's not like the reason I PC game. That's just a hobby I have, a side hobby. I just like working with computer parts. That's just kind of how But when it comes to the gaming side, why would I not want to game on the most powerful of machines?
Well, people don't see it like that. I mean, a lot of people don't, which that's okay if you just want to play games. I don't hate on somebody for playing on consoles, which a lot of people will think when you tell them you game on PC. Oh, you think you're better than me? No. And
I still have my consoles. I still enjoy console games.
I'm done with modern consoles. Other than a Wii U that I may get in the next year or so, I won't get another PlayStation, and I will not get another Xbox.
Well, the Wii U, pros and cons, but the cons are you don't care because you have a PC, so it's not a con for you. But you're not gonna get your BioShock Infinite or basically those big AAA multi-plat games. It's still like it was since GameCube. You're not gonna get everything pushed to the system, but you're still always gonna get those great first-party games. You're always gonna get those great like Monster Hunter or a great Japanese RPG or basically anything. Really, just sort of more Japanese focused,
GameCube had the best exclusives. I don't remember if this game was an exclusive or not. You ever played Geist?
Geist sounds real fucking familiar. Let me look.
I had it on GameCube, and it was so awesome. I remember that. I mean, I got it. It didn't sell well, and it was still kind of new, and I got it for like $8 sealed. And I enjoyed it so much.
Oh yeah. Nope, I never played it, but I know you're talking about.
Possess people and stuff. It was pretty cool.
But basically, the Wii U, the good comparison is GameCube, because the Wii definitely had huge success, and there's a shit ton of games on it. There's no shortage of games when it comes to Wii, and a lot of great games too. When it comes to Wii U, it's really like you're getting like an awesome, platinum. Did the Wonderful 101, and it's just straight like basically think Metal Gear Rising and sort of like insane action game, and it's insanely difficult. So you'll get like weird quirky games like that, like like you did GameCube with Beautiful Joe. That's a game that was really quirky, hard, sort of hugely combat influence, and so the Wii U is sort of in that category right now, to where you're getting a lot of really awesome sort of exclusives that you won't get anywhere else, but you're not going to get every good AAA title out there. So that's where it stands. But anyway, so you can't just have a Wii U and be good. You do need to have a second console, if you want to really do that, which most people have anyway. So I'm just go into it. But yeah, I'm gonna try and go through this real quick, but so NES things, and then never had a Super Nintendo. An older brother of mine did for like a few months, and then he moved out, and he was like quite older, and so I remember only like vague memories of a Super Nintendo. But I had a Sega Genesis that I played a ton. Like the Sega Genesis was my system during that era. That's what I loved and ate up. Like I had like Altered Beast was one of my favorite games. And we played that a shit ton with my brother. Played Tecmo Bowl 3 on that a ton. But so I got a Sega, and when the N64 PS1 hit, I had both, because I had a PS1 way before an N64. I had a PS1 sort of on release, and again, it's because I have brothers why I have all these systems, right? So even if it's not a system that I personally have, it's just because I have brothers. One of them's gonna have a fucking system anyway. Like we had a 3DO, and the 3DO actually had some pretty awesome games on it. But
that was an expensive system back then. Wasn't it?
Oh yeah. No, like my brother paid us like you're looking at.
I think they were
$500. It was like $499.
Yeah, they were like $500 or $600 new back then, and that's like $1,000 in today's money.
Exactly. So it was quite expensive, but it definitely and this was before PS1 for sure. Basically, and it still looked better than PS1. PS1 came out like 2 years later or something like that. So there was a Demolition Man game for that system that was awesome. There was like some. It was like a destruction derby type game, a crash and burn. That's what it was called. But they had really awesome cutscenes. They really utilized like having a CD format, right? Way more than a Sega Saturn would or anything like that. It really sort of pushed the envelope. The problem is once the PS1 hit, just like once the PS2 hit with Dreamcast, killed anything else. PS1 just fucking skyrocketed. But and then PS1 is probably, God, it's so hard to say, but I think the PS1 is my favorite system in terms of gaming library, because the amount of insanely good Japanese RPGs on that PlayStation 1 was like through the roof. Oh my God, it was ridiculous. So good.
You can still find new ones you never heard of that are good.
Mm-hmm.
I love collecting those.
And we mentioned, you had like big ones like Final Fantasy and Legend of Dragoon and stuff like that, but you had a lot of like weird, obscure ones out there that I can't even think of. But I'm telling you, I've played probably like 30, 40 like Stellar. What was one that was real big? I can't remember the name of it, but I have a bunch in my head. I just can't fucking think of the name of them. Right?
I really liked Wild Arms.
Yeah, that was awesome. Chrono Cross even was amazing.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, PS1 and so I had PS1 and I had that system for a while. Why I'm into punk music is because of PlayStation 1, because of Tony Hawk. I got a Pizza Hut demo of, it was like Tony Hawk, Crash Bandicoot, all that shit, right? And I played that demo disc to fucking death.
Oh, dude, speaking of those, actually, a while back, I got all the Pizza Hut PS1 demos.
Ah, that's awesome.
I found some, and I have some duplicates, I think.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, I collect demo discs. It's weird.
No, it's cool because like those are some of my fondest memories, right? Because like when we're this age, it's not like we're working. It's not like we can go and get a game, right? So you're sort of limited to what you get. And even if it's a demo disc, what do you do? And you're playing through that demo disc every game multiple fucking times. I mean, you're sitting there for just weeks and weeks and weeks just going through these demo discs.
I used to wear PlayStation Undergrounds out. I would play them to death. Play every game on them over and over.
Yep. But Tony Hawk, it had Goldfinger song, that Superman song, and it had Bad Religion, and to this day, like Bad Religion is one of my favorite bands, and I like listen to Dave have all their album shit, and it's what got me into punk music, and like that on its own is like a big huge life changer, and like I'm sort of all into this, like really into like science and the sort of whole punk message, and it's funny that I got it all from Tony Hawk, but I was just really big into skateboarding at that age, and I was really big into like punk and ska music and Tony Hawk, and it just hit right at that like prime time of all that popularity and stuff, and man, I had so many memories of Tony Hawk with that. And then Crash Bandicoot, I fucking loved to death. There was so many great PS1. Spyro, I don't know, man. It can go on and on and on. And then we got an Xbox for Christmas, and this was it was the Christmas of 2002, so it was about turn 2000. No, the console just came out, so it was the Christmas of 2002, and I got Jet Set Radio Future and Sega GT. Those are the two games that came with the system. And Sega GT, man, that racing game was insane. I remember every
physics were so weird.
It's so weird of driving. Well, this isn't Sega GT, the first one. This is Sega GT 2002. So I don't know if you played that one.
No, I don't think I have.
It's definitely a really nice upgrade from the original. It actually looks pretty damn nice. Because I saw the original. Ooh, the original looks bad compared to 2002 on the Xbox. But it really showed off Xbox's power. But Jet Set Radio Future, I never even played the original Jet Set Radio. So I just played this one, and I loved it, dude. And so I had friends come over, and they're like, oh, yeah, I had this on Dreamcast. And this was like
it's really fun on Dreamcast.
I know that. And I had friends come over because, again, I was into, like, skating and stuff like that. And we'd all come over, and we'd just be playing that game for hours and hours and hours. And, like, everyone was, like, that was, like, the game. And I was, like, the fucking cool kid for having this Jet Set Radio Future. And I remember so many people just, like wanting to come over just so they can play that game. Because the graphic style and everything was so incredible for that time. Because it was, like, cel-shaded and stuff, and nothing really looked like that. But just the way it felt, it was, like, smooth 60 FPS, like, and then I got big into Halo 2, and I got big into Xbox Live, and sort of I'm on this Xbox hype train, dude. I'm just like Xbox hardcore, and I remember the GameCube was out, and I remember bashing the GameCube, and I remember being one of those like no. why the fuck would I want to play a kiddie, Zelda, because it was fucking like Toon Link and shit, and it looked all like kiddie, and I was so mad because I wanted it to look like Ocarina of Time. Basically, I wanted to look what Twilight Princess turned into, and I got really mad that it got like really cartoony, and I just got pissed off, and I'm like, I'm not fucking getting a GameCube ever. It's such a kiddie dumb system, and I just was like, anyway, so I was always in this mindset, and I'm probably like 12, 13 years old at this time, And I got a lot of really, really great games, though, for the Xbox. They had Blinks, which was like a platformer, but you could like control time with it. Think of like Prince of Persia, but a lot more elaborate, and like, and then I had Vex, which was like a guy with claws, and the platformer kind of played like Banjo-Kazooie. But they had a lot of really good Xbox games outside, and it's all sort of stuff I was into, and I was really loving it because I love racing games too. And I played that Sega GT 2002. I'll probably put easily 1,000 hours into that game. That was like one of my favorite gaming memories. So then I went into all this phase and playing Xbox Live and talking. And talking with people on Xbox Live all the time, and I made a lot of great friends, and I got Burnout Revenge, and that was my game, right? Because I love racing games, I love arcade games, and it mashed two together in a perfect blend, and I literally hit in the top 10 in the world on that game, and this is when like millions were playing at the time. I think it was like 2.6 million total players, and I ended up hitting rank number 9 in that game after, I'm talking like 2 years of like memorizing every single little tiny like cut of a corner and memorizing the entire track. And with this game, it's super, super fast. So think of like going like 240 the whole fucking time. You're just holding the boost through the whole race because I'm that good to know when to drifts, and I never even have to let go of my turbo button, and I'm constantly gaining turbos throughout the entire track because I'm knowing every single jump to hit. And I was just like, I'd go into lobbies and just wipe everyone out, and it hit a point to where I'd hop into a lobby and people would just leave. They would know who I was and they would just fucking leave. And I just ruled that fucking game, and it was such an incredible experience. And I've never had anything close to that ever since then, or even till that date. I'd never been that good at a video game until that. And then I eventually, I had a friend, CJ, and he had a PS2, and there was just a bunch of, because I still had a PS1, remember, before that, and a Super Nintendo later on that I got, and I got some. I played Zelda Link to the Past, and I played a bunch of Japanese RPGs on Super Nintendo that I loved. And so, like, I wanted to get a PS2 because I wanted to play Final Fantasy X. I wanted to play all these Japanese RPGs I never got a chance to play because I had an Xbox. So I never, like, hated on, like, I remember hating on the GameCube because of, I was mad at Zelda because it was such a huge disappointment for me. Now, I never actually played it till later, but at that moment, it stabbed me in the heart because Zelda is one of my favorite franchises of all time, and when I saw it go that direction, it just hurt, and I just was like, it made me not want to get a GameCube. But I still wanted a PlayStation 2, so I ended up trading them my Xbox for a PlayStation 2 because I played everything I wanted to play. I liked the system and everything, but I wanted a different experience, and I wanted those Japanese RPGs, and I wanted to play Metal Gear Solid, 2 and 3. So I did the trade, and I got all these awesome games that I already had, and that was the best thing I ever did. Once I did that trade and got a PS2, man, like, that system, like, became my world, dude. There were so many great games on the PS2, and I got so indulged with it, and I was just like, I remember thinking back, like, months later, I'm like, man, I'm so glad I did that. Because I was so on the fence. I actually didn't want to do it, and he was talking me into it, like, daily because he wanted an Xbox. And I eventually ended up doing it. And now I'm just like, man, he was a dumbass. Not that I didn't have good times with the Xbox, but, like, looking back on it, like, man, the libraries weren't even close of what was on PS2 and what was on Xbox. But at the time, it's just, and I remember, like, that's when forums were, like, first starting to get big and the internet and stuff like that whenever I had an Xbox. So I remember, like, being on Xbox, like, fan sites and stuff like that and forums, which is really weird because, like, now I'm, like, the exact opposite, like, I don't give a shit about Xbox, but it's funny how I go through those phases, but so I got that, and then, man, way later, like, I eventually ended up getting a GameCube. Well, no, I got a GameCube because Smash Brothers Melee, right? Because I played the shit out of the N64 one. I eventually ended up getting a GameCube because I just had to have Melee. I always played at a friend's house all the time, and I always had access to it, right? Like, my best friend, like, had it, and I would just go over to his house all the time. And I eventually just got tired of always having to go over there to play Smash Brothers, so I eventually got a GameCube. I bought it for, like, $80, and I got Smash Brothers, and then, like, Luigi's Mansion, and there was a few games I wanted to get on GameCube, but I refused to play Zelda, right? And I eventually bought it, and I played it, like, maybe a year after I bought it, and then but once I did, and I kept having to force myself to play it because, well, I do have to beat it. I beat every Zelda game, and I kept pushing through it, and I didn't like any bit of it. And then over time, and then once I got like 3 or 4 hours in, I'm starting to like it a little bit, and it keeps going. By like midway through the game, what saved it for me was like whenever I realized it was more of a Zelda game than any others, like than Ocarina of Time even. Like whenever you went into the thing, like when everything was like black and white, and you went underneath the sea and stuff like that, and then you like solved the little puzzle, and then it all turned into color, and like everything came to life, and like it was Hyrule, and the classic like NES like knights were there and all that, and it just felt like Zelda just like engulfed, and everything from then on like I was so amazed with, and I loved it. And then I fell in love with that, and I just like I remember looking back, and I'm just like, man, I hated my old self so much, and it taught me a lesson though. It taught me like never to judge a game, and I always have to play it before I can sit there and just be like, oh no, it looks stupid, it looks blah 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 blah. And I'm kind of glad I did that, because I do that with a lot of games now. I'll instinctively like not want to play something, and I'll always think back on Wind Waker, and I'll be like, no, I need to play it. And I always end up, most of the time I prove myself wrong, and it actually becomes a lot better game than what I thought. So that was like a big moment for me with that. But anyway, God, this is going on so long. But yeah, that's that, and sort of went on. But anything current gen, I had a PS3 and a 360 only for like a few months. I ended up selling both of them at a good time, and I just never got big into them because, like, again, even when I got into PC gaming, like I always played emulation. At least, even whenever, right when I got my Xbox was about the time I got a computer, and always on the side, like even when I had my PS2, all this, I was always playing PC, and I was big into Diablo 2. I was big into, at this time though, like late 90s, early 2000s, it was still very like you had your computer games, you had your console games. It didn't start merging the two together till I would say about 2004 or 5-ish. Where you actually started getting console games on computer. So, and then once that started happening, and I started learning more and more about computer hardware and started upgrading my computer, my very first like computer rig that was actually good was with a 8800 GT, and that was like the best card in the world. Like I remember, like I got that, and like I was able to play games on high settings, and I got that whenever I was 17. And that was my first, like, complete, like, from the ground up, buying every part individually, putting it all together. Everything else was always just upgrade to something else.
I think 8800 GT is kind of what started PC gaming into what it is at this time. Mm-hmm. Because that was a hell of a card.
Yeah. Like, I had that, man, and I just was like, that's when those games started coming out, though. That's when we actually started getting console games, and it really started becoming a platform of, it's not just a World of Warcraft machine, but anyway, that's that, man. That went on really, really long, super long podcast. I may have to go through and edit some things. I don't know. I could upload it all, but I'm gonna listen to it again, and probably I'll see. Because I have to do the music breaks anyway and stuff like that. Yeah. But that's it for the show, guys. Uploaded a little late. Just been super busy. I am trying to do one a week for sure. All times. You'll have another one hopefully next week, and you may not. I'm busy moving. I have a kid coming soon. But once all this bullcrap sort of gets done with here in like 2 or 3 weeks, I'll really be consistent, really be pushing out. But I'll be trying to push out an episode anyway every week. But if it doesn't happen, just hold on to your horses. But it definitely will starting to become consistent here in a few weeks, and we're going to putting some effort into this podcast. But I'll see you guys later, and happy gaming.